Paul, today's quite an historic day in terms of cricket and its approach to player agents. Can you tell us about the significance of this event?
Well, it's our first ever player agent accreditation conference. We've been going through a process since we negotiated the last MOU in June last year of putting a scheme in place, and today's sort of the culmination of that. So the guys the agents have sat an exam, and now we're going through a formal day where all the key people in Australian cricket are addressing them on the various issues that they need to know about.
And why is it important to have agents actually having an accreditation?
Well, they've got a huge amount of responsibility in our industry. They're acting on behalf of the players, the games. Our game, like every other sport, is becoming more complex. Our game is particularly complex with competitions in Australia and India and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and all over the world that they participate in. So they've got a huge responsibility, and it's our job, I think, to help educate them. It's also important that we put rules in place to control their behaviours and actions, and so it's just critical, I think, for us to better service our players and therefore the game, that we have agents that are as good as they can be.
You mentioned a couple of the overseas competitions that are available to players now. Is that one of the key differences between, say, cricket from a player agent's point of view and the other codes?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I think cricket is a far more complex landscape for an agent than any sport that I can think of. I mean, we've got guys that are playing in 6 to 7 different countries in any given year, and therefore they're signing 6 or 7 different contracts, not to mention the 2 they'll sign in Australia. Some will sign a marketing contract as well in Australia. So they have to be across a whole lot of information, and if they're going to represent the players as best they can, they're going to need some help with the education of getting their heads around that. So that's what this is all about. It's about trying to help them do their jobs better for the players.
And what sort of numbers are we talking about in terms of the attendees and those that are going through this process?
I think we've just got just over 30 agents that have gone through, which is a high rate of agents that are on our books. It's been good too that there's a heap of Cricket Australia and State Association staff that have just come along for their own education. So we've got a significant number here today, which is important and fantastic.
And what are the key outcomes that you'd like to get from the likes of today and also this process that's been going for a bit over 3 months, I think?
Well, as I said, it's about educating them first and foremost, and we're going through that process. It's not just about what's in the contracts and all the regulatory stuff. It's also about getting them to understand the direction Cricket Australia is heading, on and off the field. What the ACA fits in, where I guess the industry is headed. So it's about education. It's about bringing them together under a formal framework, and I think that's we're well on the path to doing that.
Certainly an opportunity to open up the lines of communication that seems to be well received to date, and no doubt you'll be receiving more and more calls down the track.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, I think we've always had a good relationship with the agents. I think they certainly see that we're on their side. So that's probably why it's taken us this long to get a scheme in place, and that we haven't had a whole lot of prevalent issues. But we think in terms of taking the sport of cricket forward in this country, it's an important step. And yeah, I'm sure we'll get more calls. It's the nature of the business.
So in saying that, in terms of putting this framework together, is it, I guess, having an eye to the future and looking to maintain the standard, but also take, as you say, as cricket moves forward, to make sure the agents are keeping pace? Yeah,
I mean, cricket has moved forward the last few years at probably a rate that it never has. And I think the agents, who are really the conduits to the players, the individual players, they need to be kept abreast, and unless you're extremely diligent, you can't do that by yourself. So we think that it's a really important role that we help the agents, keep them up to date with all the information, all the things that are happening in the cricket world, which we've done informally through emails and whatever else. But I think this is now a formal framework for them to, as I said, offer the best service they can to the players.
There's quite a lot of money involved in being a cricketer these days, particularly those that are contracted to Australia, but also availing themselves of other opportunities in the shorter forms of the game. Has that made the proposition of being a player agent all that more attractive?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I think that's, go back when I started the ACA 11 years ago, there were a handful of agents, because really it was only the Australian players that made any decent money out of the game, and therefore the agents were only interested in those players. But now we've got the Big Bash League and we've got the overseas 2020 leagues, and as you can see, there's 30 plus agents in the room there are 180 odd players now who are valuable. So there's no doubt that where there's money, agents will come. And I think cricket is a game that needs agents because it is such a complex game, but it needs good agents, and that's what we're trying to do here.
What's the biggest challenge currently or in the near future for a player agent in the cricket sphere?
I think just keeping on top of everything, all the different offerings. I mean, there are a lot of issues in international cricket around these domestic 2020 leagues. There's a lot of opportunities being put in front of players, but sometimes those opportunities don't go as planned. And what I mean by that is often players will sign contracts with the 2020 league and then find they don't get paid. And I think agents have got a significant amount of work to do in terms of the negotiation of those contracts, the follow-up, the building of relationships with the teams they're playing in. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge they've got at the moment.
In the last week or so, there's been a bombshell that's hit Australian sport right across the different codes. Has that reinforced the need to have a very good working relationship between player and his agent and also the player association?
Look, I think so. I mean, I think probably what's come out in the last week, and I will say that there's still a lot of questions from where I sit. I think there's been a lack of information there, but it does show that I guess athletes are targets for people who may be trying to get them to do things they may not want to do, and we'd be naive to think that even agents couldn't fall into that category. So part of this process is to actually background check them, and there's a whole lot of things they've got to go through to become accredited. But if they become accredited, we can say with confidence to our players that your agent is above board and he's a worthy person to represent you. So yeah, there's no doubt that this is a good step as part of the bigger picture.